Well, episode 1. Welcome to New Eden. Each party member had received a letter and was convinced to meet with a mysterious employer under the name Silence. After these meetings, Silence left each member with a string of coordinates and told them to meet him there at 9 p.m. on the 17th day of the month of Seeds. These coordinates just so happened to lead the party members to a mid-district pub known as the Weirwood Meadery, a quiet, relatively unpopular spot on the district's eastern side.
Rumor has it, Archduchess Shaw planned the coup of her uncle, the ex-Archduke Montgomery Dewitt, at the pub's liquor-stained tables. The party members have been instructed to approach the barmaid and give her the passphrase, "If I were to order a bottle of Mithrin whiskey, where would be a fine place to sit?" After receiving the passphrase, the barmaid, a human named Doreen, mentions that they ought to sit in the parlor, leading them into a private room.
Silence arrives and introduces the job, a heist involving the archive of one Alexander Caldwell, a self-proclaimed procurer of the odd and fascinating. Nearly a month ago, Caldwell attended the estate sale of Edwin Donovan, a former member of the High District, and purchased a curious item, a twisted slab of dark stone speckled with fine aetherius deposits. Silence's employer wishes to have this item for personal research, and has tasked him with seeking out a crew of low-profile individuals to collect it for them.
In 2 days' time, the Caldwells are throwing a gala to celebrate the coming of age of Alexander's niece, Millicent Caldwell. That night will be the best opportunity to infiltrate in Alexander's private archive. As is customary, the event will be supervised by a handful of the Caldwells' personal guard, meaning discretion will be key. Lucky for them, Silence has managed to acquire invites to the party for the gala, with each member under a pseudonym.
The party heads to the Black Emporium, where they strike a deal with Fontaine's boys gang for passage into the High District. Jade casts invisibility on himself and maintains it in the presence of the gang members, keeping his presence unknown.
They begin their journey accompanied by two of Fontaine's boys into the sewers. In the distance, they see a twisted and maddened ex-compatriot of Rex and Ludy's, Bernice, covered in cult-like markings and brandings. The figure opens its mouth, calling out a prayer to an unknown god, and a stream of rats begins to pour from its mouth.
Episode 2 of Mice and Gangs. The party starts the session in combat with more blighted zombies attacking from all directions as Bernice grows long, bony protrusions from their fingers to assault the party. During the battle, Isla is knocked unconscious but stabilizes with a natural 20 death save, while Rex and Ludy both discover their shared nature of being aberrant. Illegal. Rex and Jade both discovered their shared nature of being aberrants, illegal magic-wielding individuals.
Unfortunately, one of the party's travel companions, Verma, is not so lucky and falls to the zombies in the fight. With the rats, the blighted, and Bernice slain, the party proceeds and finishes their journey to Fontaine's hideout. When they reach their end, the travel companion, Bezel, reaches into a pouch and pulls out a small pinch of fine white dust. She then traces a symbol on the wall, and the stones begin to shift and move, creating an opening.
During an audience with Fontaine, she tells the party that in exchange for their services, she can offer them free passage through her tunnel into the High District and a boon, should they desire one. For instance, a distraction at the gala.
The service she requires is for them to get an item into the basement of an overseer barracks in the mid-district. The item is more or less a remote igniter made by the gang's resident runeseer sigil. Etched onto a cobblestone pulled from the streets of New Eden, this ruined item must find its way into the locked powder room of the Overseer's eastern barracks on the Grey Walk. How they get in is up to them. Episode 3, Overseer's Aberrants in 8 Eyes.
The party spends a night in the Middle District at the Grey Stag. Rex and Ludy get some alone time in the laundry room, while Jade turns in early. Abby tells Isla about Nimbus, the city where he comes from, and she shows him her special ability, shifting her face to resemble someone she's never met from his past. In the morning, they attempt to come up with a plan for how they're going to infiltrate the Overseer barracks.
Before heading out on their mission, Rex and Isla test out their acting chops at a Medi-Center in an attempt to procure decent medical kits. Rex pretends to be Dr. Fritz Gesundheit, a surgeon who has had a recent oil fire in their office. When the admin asks to see his ID in the form of a medical license, they become suspicious as Rex cannot provide one. Isla discreetly cuts herself with her hidden dagger and asks the admin to talk in private. She tells her that she is Rex's caretaker, that he has recently started to lose his mind, and can sometimes become a danger to her and himself. She says that she needs the medical kits so that they can deal with such incidences quietly at home. The MediCenter admin feels bad for her and gives her a discount on the medikits.
The party makes their way to the Overseer's barracks and sets themselves strategically surrounding the barracks, ready to sneak in when Jade, using his aberrant nature, creates a distraction by using magic to attack one of the Overseers on guard, and then running into the streets of the city. Ludi and Isla climb into the building through the second-story window and begin fighting their way down to the basement.
Episode 4. See you at the aviary. Inside the barracks, Isla and Ludi are quickly overwhelmed, but manage to get to the powder room, while Abby fights from the doorway under the huge Overseer banner that reads, "Ever watchful, ever serving." They manage to kill an Overseer, but Abby flees after taking a beating from another one. Jade is pursued by a hunter, a mechanical octopedal hound, and manages to use his invisibility and stealth to escape.
Barely surviving, the party manages to place the sigil and, using brute force and Rex's acid breath to break the bars, Ludi and Isla escape out of the basement window and the party disperses, all moving in different pathways to hide from the Overseers and meet back at the aviary.
Regrouping at the aviary, the party is quickly escorted by a gang member, Bernard, who leads them back to Fontaine and out of their way into the High District.
Episode 5, The High Life. The party has their first foray into the High District, entering through the tunnel system into the Fontaine boys' hideout on Bosky Lane. Concerned about sticking out in the rich High District, the party splits up. Rex, Ludi, and Abby waiting at the hideout, and Isla and Jade, being the best dressed of the group, venturing out in search of shops. Along the way, they find a bakery where Isla purchases some cookies for the boys and discovers there's a new male model of AI similar to her now working in the High District. They continue to the Pin and Needle, a clothing shop where they purchase some luxurious coats to cover up Rex and Abby's plain clothing, and head back, ready to help their friends fit in.
Back at the hideout, Rex and Ludi talk to one of the ladies, part of the rotating circle of old women that Fontaine's boys use as decoys in the front window of their hideout. And Abby hangs out outside and uses a special ability, Beast Sense, to see through the eyes of a pigeon, getting his first view of the High District that now surrounds him. His vision provides a glimpse of the Striders, the towering constructs of High District elegance that survey and protect its citizens.
Regrouping, the party heads out into the city. They make their way to their appointment at the Armoire with Antonio and Patrice, who outfit them in lavish costumes for the coming gala. Coming out of the shop, Ludi seems out of sorts, overtaken by his past, and runs into the streets, crying for his parents. Rex attempts to calm and quiet him as they head into the Baron and Bernard Inn and Tap House, where their accommodations have been arranged.
Episode 6, Another New Eden Sunrise. Hoping to be more clean-cut to match his disguise, Abby heads to a barber shop with Isla and Jade in tow. They convince him to dye his entire beard blue, claiming it is High District fashion.
After presenting the newly colorful barbarian to the rest of their party, they hold a pseudo-intervention for Ludi and Rex, expressing their concerns for what would happen if Ludi were to have another episode, like he had this evening, in more dire circumstances such as the gala or heist. Rex recommends that if Ludi were to do something that would jeopardize, that is not his accent, jeopardize the party, they should kick him out and kill him. The party responds with surprise at this, Isla noting that they're supposed to be in a loving relationship. Ludi says that the party can decide whether he goes or stays. Jade says he trusts him. Abby says they need him. Rex says nothing. Eventually, everyone calls it a night.
In the morning, they make their way to the home of Beatrice Bellstop and talk with her about her organization and smuggling their weapons into the Caldwell residence for the gala. The party leaves, decided to come back 10 hours before the gala to drop off their weapons and head back to the Baron and Bernard.
Back at the Baron and Bernard, the party asks around about Balthazar Finch, a man Silence recommended to obtain blueprints of the Caldwell residence from to aid in their heist. In exchange for the blueprint, the party has to steal a bottle of Meoder Skull from the Caldwell cellar. They agree to the request and plan to meet by 1 o'clock the next day to retrieve their blueprints. And so, back to bed they all go.
Abby and Isla, being the 4-hour resters of the group, find themselves with time to kill in the early morning. Abby grabs breakfast and they decide to sit out on the 4th floor balcony to watch the sun rise over the city, exchanging bits of their past as black fades to orange, fades to blue.
As they wake, Rex, Ludi, and Jade convene downstairs in the bar looking for something to eat. To quote Ludi, "It was a tasty breakfast, full of bickering," and Rex even invoking the wrath of the cook Baron, who issues him strike one written under the food on his plate. The episode ends with the party returning to Beatrice and dropping off their weapons with her.
Episode 7, The Heist, Part 1. With some time to kill before the gala, the group cleans up and gets spiffy for tonight's events, while Isla attempts to test the party members on their fake personas. They plan their roles in tonight's heist, pausing to retrieve the blueprints from Balthazar Finch before heading out to the gala.
Arriving outside the Caldwell Manor, they each get in line to enter the party, noticing a group of 5 sour individuals who are under the impression they had been invited, but who did not appear to be on the list. They also see the Caldwell's private guards, who are adorned in animalistic metal masks. Each character enters the party individually. They wait around, attempting to find Alexander Caldwell and their distraction man, Winston Marcellius, for almost an hour before eventually finding just Winston. Jade engages the plan and sneaks upstairs invisible.
The distraction goes off without a hitch as Winston proposes to Millicent Caldwell and she accepts. In the ensuing jubilations, Abby, Rex, and Ludi sneak downstairs to find the Mjolnir skull for Balthazar. With Ludi sneaking around quietly, Abby tries to harass the servants in the basement into giving him the mead, but they throw him out, so he goes around to the servants' quarters to grab weapons. Rex tags himself in, and him and Ludi eventually manage to find and acquire the mead, but have eventually encounter a guard who they have to knock unconscious in order to prevent him from escalating the situation.
Jade eventually finds a secret elevator on the 4th floor in a wardrobe in Alexander Caldwell's room. He heads down and finds himself in the archives, which appear to be a strange mirror of the world above.
Episode 8, Not in My Mind, The Heist, Part 2. Jade in the basement starts exploring. He finds a mystical, aberrant-hating chandelier and hears a weird hissing sound in his brain. Going through a large hallway with display cases in it, he enters a maze of bookshelves. Inside the display cases, he sees a blackened heart with black scales on it and is told, the more you look at it, the more you swear it's still beating. He also finds a large circuit board covered in small bits of wiring broken into 6 different pieces. A pair of eyes, one iris black, the other bright red, and a raven with its head on backwards. At the end of the maze, he stumbles upon a strange ritual. Isla, sneaking upstairs, distracts a guard and accidentally gets a date.
Isla and Abby eventually make their way up to the room and find the elevator. Heading down, they find Jade, who has returned to the elevator, and they decide to go back up to find Rex and Ludi, now disguised as a guard, who have gone back to the party momentarily in an attempt to find the wife of Edvard Valken, a figure from their past, who might still be at the party. As they do, they find something disturbing. Distressed partygoers wielding improvised weapons like table legs and chairs are attacking other guests. Talking to the stewardess, they find out that Mrs. Valken has left, and they decide to return to the rest of the party.
The party regroups in the archive and checks out the satanic ritual happening in the library, where Isla manages to straight up just walk up to the demon and grab the artifact they were after. The group realizes that the head cultist is in fact Alexander Caldwell. However, his eyes and demeanor seem off. The demon seems to be revealing secrets about their past to each party member inside their minds. Jade has another interaction with the monster in his mind and decides it should be destroyed before it can hurt anyone else. Abby disagrees and tries to grab Jade and run off with the artifact before they all die, but no one joins him. This episode ends as weapons are unsheathed and the fight begins.
Episode 9, Not Your Average Heist. The Heist Part 3. The fight goes surprisingly well for the party, despite the fact that Rex has his perceptions distorted by the demon and can no longer distinguish friend from foe. In this state, he murders Caldwell. The party turns on the demon, but is unable to take it down before it escapes, and promises that they will meet again.
In the aftermath, Jade and Abby exchange harsh words over their differences of opinion as to how the situation was handled, and the party goes upstairs, finding Caldwell's room in the same state as they left it. However, the event seems to be over, and overseers have come to investigate, so they decide to scale down the building using a makeshift rope made of bedsheets. Jade, thinking that this is a terrifying idea, decides to go down through the house, where he sees the aftermath of the events upstairs. An utter bloodbath.
Meanwhile, the others have issues while scaling the building. A couple of them have very close calls on the treacherous 200-plus foot descent. Regrouping the yard with thankfully only minor injuries, the party gathers themselves and retreats back to the B&B.
Alive and celebrating having successfully obtained the Meoder Skull and the artifact, they contemplate the consequences of their actions, and the party deduces that the partygoers who went crazy were probably under the same mind-controlled influence as Rex during the fight. They discuss the future and decide that they could form a team, and coin a new motto that they will aim to uphold.
Survive, thrive, and keep each other alive.
And that are the first 9 episodes of Dungeons & Drama Majors in just over 15 minutes.